right, now we got it. Hey, we made it work.
Hi.
Hi, how are
We
you
made it.
today? We did.
Great. Thank you, Brooke. I'm doing great. Technology is always like a hit or miss, but we made it.
Mm,
So
we
yeah,
did. We made it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's great when it works, right? Or when you know
absolutely.
how to work it.
I'm going to
Uh,
raise the volume a little bit on my end. Yeah.
okay. Well, I'm so happy to have you here today, and I hope we'll be able to. I know you're going to educate me some because I'm not that familiar with the corporate boards, and I think it'll just be a really interesting discussion about what the possibilities are and the opportunities that are out there for women as it relates to being on corporate boards. And I'll let you start just by introducing yourself and what you do with Red Circle International and what your team does, and then we can kind of get into the nitty gritty on being on a corporate board.
Absolutely. And to just set the tone for this, I am driven by passion. So I drive this conversation that we are going to have also based on passion more than anything else. So first off, my name is Red. I am the CEO of Red Circle International. And Red Circle International is an event-based company, experiential events. And with that, I mean, a good example or how to kind of make you understand what that is tying in as many of our senses as possible to make that connection between a brand or a person or a service or product and the consumer. So that enhances our experience and therefore enhances the event. So there are many different variations of that that you can do, from very expensive ones to very simple ones that you can do yourself, right? But that is my true passion for what I do with Red Circle International. Um, the other thing that I am driving is advocacy for women. And when I say advocacy for women, I don't mean us versus them in terms of men. I think
Mm-hmm.
that we all need to work together to make change and to be successful. So I welcome any man into this conversation. So if they're listening right now or will in the future, you are very important to us, and hopefully we are very important to you. So that's number one. The other thing is, I think also as part of my introduction, is that I am Swedish. So you may hear an accent here and there, but I may have a different viewpoint or have a different thought, maybe, since you grew up in different parts of the world, or you are groomed in ways in society and everything. So I think that's an interesting piece to it. I also want to tell you why I am talking about this topic, because obviously I'm in events and the experiential of everything. But the aspect of women and advocacy for women has spilled over from only being really business and that part of life, and of course professionally and personally as well. But the other aspect that has expanded now has been into the board industry since I took a board education and global certification
Mm-hmm.
in that industry. So after that, I really wanted to, I had a very specific ambition after taking that course, and I hope that I can get others curious about this as well. And that was to really drive exposure and inclusion for women in using the course as leverage, because
Mm-hmm.
there's so much we don't know and so much that's new, and unless somebody opens the door, it's very rare that we look into the areas that we just assume is not for us, or there's a lot of assumption and also a lot of guidance that may be in different directions. So
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of my piece to that, or how I got into that topic
Mm-hmm.
that we're going to talk about today. So it's more so of a conversation and opening the door for a different thought that we may not have considered before, that I think is important that we do consider.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's important we consider it too. And I think maybe we'll just start out with kind of your thoughts on what you feel like is actually standing between us and corporate boards. And maybe it's misconceptions about what's standing between us that we just need to become more aware of, that, some false misnomers or whatnot.
Absolutely. And I think it's a great question to start with, because many women, especially, may go to the areas of, well, we're not invited to the table, whatever, all these corporates, or even as an entrepreneur, you feel like you're not invited, or men are taking all the spots, or I don't have the right background, and those type of things. But I think that we should turn that to the other side and say, maybe it's us. Because if I ask, and I ask a lot of people this question since I took this course and certification, I ask women randomly, have you ever considered board directorship for yourself? And it's very interesting, the response to that. And I can go on and on about the responses, but a lot of them are, I don't have a financial background, or in accounting, or those very specific areas that are assumed to be needed on a board. Maybe when I retire, I don't really know if I have anything to add to a board. I don't have time. I have bad experience by a nonprofit board. I mean, these things can go on and on. I don't know how to find a board seat. How do I get introduced to this? So there are so many questions that are stopping us from going there. And that's what I want to break from. And this is the realization that I had going through a course, because I realized that all of these things are BS. We place those there because we want a little division to why we're not going there. It's easy for us to go to a nonprofit board, but once it goes to those paid board seats, corporate board seats, all of a sudden, oh no, that's probably not for me, unless you slide in there for some other way. But we are very conservative in how we want to take on that, even the thought of that, right? We shut it down from the beginning. So maybe we need to reprogram ourselves in our thought process, because we do belong on boards.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, is just really taking the time. And I think that's hopefully what this conversation will help women do, is just consider, like, maybe they hadn't considered it before. And if they thought there was a wall up, maybe it was because they really hadn't just kind of addressed what the opportunities possibly were, what their skill sets are, and how those might complement a board. I know personally for me, I would only have thought of it as a nonprofit type of a position. Really had not thought about it in terms of being on a corporate board as a paid position. And I think also as an entrepreneur, I mean, you know, we're busy running our own businesses, hoping to have some type of board support, either presently or in the future. And so the idea of, you know, adding on that position sometimes just isn't something that women consider. But I think it's a great thing, especially now. A lot of women are kind of moving out of the corporate space, and they want to have their own business, or they just want more freedom and flexibility with their work. And it does seem to offer that opportunity, you know, when we look into it in that way. So I was just checking our notes here. The other thing that I wanted us to talk about is increasing our confidence and ability to serve. And I know that's important to you as well. So what do you think are some ways that we can actually do that? And I'm assuming that's through talking to each other, that, you know, helps us recognize what our skills are when we're talking them through, or we hear other people validate our skills. But what do you think are some ways that we can actually build that confidence and get to that space where we're actually considering serving?
I think it starts with a conversation like you and I are having right now. So just the thought, opening that door to the thought process is number one. Because if we never open that, or constantly shut that down, or turn your head the other way when the conversation comes up, or when it's in the news, or there's a lot of mandates, there's a lot of quota discussions about women serving on boards. We need to be part of those conversations, and we need to unlock a few things with ourselves that makes us now being able to participate in the conversation, what then leads to action. So for me, it's the conversations that we have that opens that door. And then we have to be very open to learning. I'm a lifelong learner. Give me anything to learn. And yes, to some extent, I need it to be sort of in the field that I'm passionate about, or something that I am driven for. But I'm a lifelong learner. So whether it's women who have served on boards, whether that's a paid board or not, and women who have never been on a board before, we need to give ourselves permission to say, this is something I'm going to get ramped up in and learn and be ready. We do that with
Mm-hmm.
everything else in life. Why not with this? Women are so driven by impact. Like, we're impact driven. We want to make a
Mm-hmm.
difference. We want to make a change in whatever way we can, and create a legacy for ourselves. What better place to do that than a board? And yes, hence it needs to be the right board for you, right? But to drive your passion and impact from a board standpoint, as opposed to doing it in all the other things that we do in life, which is great too. But as I recently learned in the course, you have approximately 200 to 250 hours a year, depending on if you sit on multiple committees and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I feel sometimes I work that a week, right? Being an
Right.
entrepreneur, we work
Yes.
around the clock. We try to do all these things. There are mothers, there are, all these activities with kids. We are just trying to cram everything in and a nonprofit board into that.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we just look at that differently and say, let me understand what it means today also, because the board directorship is also changing dramatically from what it was even 10 years ago. There's companies need to really, they have a lot of pressure to change what they're doing on board level to
Mm-hmm.
fit into the global society today, right? And all these
Right.
global supply chains and whatnot. So there is a huge space for us there. So let's just say, let me ramp myself up, let me understand what it is, and then maybe take the step that direction and have more time and energy for all the other things that we want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great consideration. And like you said, a lot of women get that a deeper sense of fulfillment when they're making a positive impact. And so you can still make the positive impact. It's just shifting the actual place, the actual type of board where you would be serving. So what are some things that we can do to up our chances of actually being appointed to one of these for-profit boards?
So my main thing is going to be exactly what I did. And it was literally someone opening the door for me. So I want to open the door for others. It's literally to educate yourself. I took a course called IBDC.D. And I'm sure you can have that in your link as well. So you can take a look at that. It is a global board education with a global certification.
Mm-hmm.
And it's extremely affordable. That to me is number one. Let's first learn what we don't know, or get ramped up if we have served on boards. What is the new and modern landscape look like? So
Mm-hmm.
education to me is number one, because in the board course that I took, you're not only learning about the actual what happens on a board, or the operations of a board, but you also
Mm-hmm.
learn the architecture, which is important, I think, oftentimes for women. We want to know, where do we fit? We don't want to
Mm-hmm.
just plop into a seat and that's it. We want to know, how do I fit? I have a very bit different background. I have PR, events, marketing, passion about sustainability. How do I fit? So
Mm-hmm.
by taking these steps and learning about it first, you also learn how to create board documents, which is a big thing today, because we are used to driving with resumes, which originally was made for management positions.
Mm-hmm.
But when we are applying to a board, or even looking at board opportunities, we need to change our mind, shift our mindset from more tactical to more strategic. And how do you do that? We need to link correctly with board opportunities by how we present ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
how we talk in an interview, let's say. And then we need to know how to find the board seats. How do we find the board seats? So to me, knowing all of those things is our first step to understand, okay, I'm ready. How do I do this? Get me into this.
Mm-hmm.
I know men typically throw themselves in the mix without any background, and women is sometimes a little bit behind on that. But in this case, I do think that education is everything. Feel
Mm-hmm.
confident.
Yeah, it sounds like with a course like you're describing, basically you're going to learn more about the landscape. And when you learn more about the landscape, you start to see yourself in the right position. So aligning your skill set with the needs of a particular corporation. And then also, yeah, just this whole new drive globally for more equity, more diversity, that's not just happening in terms of employees, but it's happening at that board level as well. So some really
Absolutely.
interesting things to think about.
Yeah. No, it's a very interesting topic to talk about because there's so many levels to it. There's a danger also of, I know that, and I'm one of them. I want to push women to every spot that I can possibly see in leadership
Mhm.
because I need the advancement. I want us to advance. And sometimes it could be dangerous to say, okay, now we have all these mandates, companies or corporations are coming out with, okay, we have this position that it needs to be a woman in this position. They're going to pull in a woman, not
Mhm.
necessarily a woman based on merit. It's more so out of quota. And if
Mhm.
the woman who is taking that spot is not up to speed and does not have what it takes at that time to be a successful board director, it's going to backfire on us because the board then are going to say, oh yeah, this is a little messy, this does not work out with a woman here. Yeah, we may try to, work around this in other ways. But if the
Mhm.
woman is board ready and ready to rock and really strong, they're going to say, wow, this is a big difference, let's get more women up here, right?
Mhm.
And it's also the aspect of, if I get a board seat and I pushing obviously for other board seats for women on that board, I want to also make sure that that woman is board ready
Sure. Mhm.
because I don't want to be in the position of, yeah, she asked for, or she took this woman in and she doesn't know what she's doing. It's a
Mhm.
reputation, but it's also, we need to compile the positive aspect of that for there to be more women and for everyone to want more women on the.
Right. Yeah, it's you're a thread in the tapestry basically. Like you're a piece of that puzzle, and so you need to be strong in that area to take on the role. Well, this has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure that I will keep learning more from you. If you don't mind, can you repeat that organization or company that you got your certification from?
Yes. So it's called IBDC.D, International Board Directorship Designation.
Hmm.
And I think we can probably put a note in there, but the
Yes.
acronym is IBDC.D. And
Okay.
obviously, I'm biased to it because it really made me think about things very differently,
Hmm.
and open doors that I hope can be opened for other women as well
Hmm.
on this topic. And I just think that we should just have this conversation, whether we're thinking about a board seat or not. Let's just have the conversation. We actually
Hmm.
have I'm now, as I mentioned, infiltrated myself a little bit in the organization because of my passion for women. And we're starting a women's group on January 30th. So if anybody is
Okay.
interested,
Great.
then we have a Q&A before. So more information from the actual internal team, not from me
Okay.
driving from passion, right?
Wonderful. But I assume, are you open to people contacting you if they have questions?
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for opening this door for me and for having this conversation. And I hope it will open doors for others, as you said. And this has been fun. I think it's just, a topic that I wouldn't necessarily have considered until we we spoke a few weeks ago. So I'm really glad we could bring this onto the live Instagram space. So
Yeah.
thanks
And I
so
give you a
much for
lot of
your
credit.
time.
I give you a lot of credit for that because people sometimes, including myself, need just an introduction to something. And then we
Hmm.
may change our trajectory going forward.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you so
Oh,
much. It was great to be here with you, Brooke.
thank you, Red. See you
All right.
soon. Bye
Bye bye.
bye.